You are listening to Draw 4 Podcast. Good tidings, and thanks for joining us. My name is Joseph Dunlap, executive producer of Draw 4 Podcast and featured writer for MetaLeague.com.
I'm Brenda Smith, and I play a lot of Limited.
I'm TJ Love. I play a lot of Standard, Modern, and I do like to play a lot of competitive Magic, but that's more my thing.
Brenda, I noticed that your credentials change every week.
I like to keep it, fresh.
Keep it real.
Depends what I'm doing. Yeah, exactly.
Last week you were like, I stream on Twitch, and this time I like Sealed. Next time it's I like ponies.
Well, I do. So that actually may be it. It depends. I feel bad because I've been sick. I haven't streamed, and so there are no current active videos up on Twitch. So I'm like, I feel bad.
You slacker.
Hopefully, I know, right? Once I can actually breathe again on a regular basis, I'll be back to it, and then again, my introduction will probably change.
All right. Well, while you gain your health, and TJ as well, while you guys hack it to death because you're both sick, let's move into the upkeep, shall we? Untap, upkeep, and draw. Standard discussion. Star City Games Open Baltimore was our first glimpse into the Shadows over Innistrad Standard metagame. One of the biggest surprises was all the human decks, with Always Watching. Ruben Bressler of the Magic Mike Show, he attended the tournament and peppered his tweet updates with pictures of Rosalind from Monsters Incorporated. Always watching, Wazowski. It was clever. I liked it.
That's pretty clever.
He did pretty well. He debuted. So in the end, Jim Davis's Bant Company won out over Mono White Humans because of its flexibility and resilience. That said, 4 of the top 8 were human decks, and the other 3 builds were white-blue humans. The most played cards were definitely Archangel Avacyn and Reflector Mage, which were in white-blue humans and in Bant Company, and Channel Fireball's Standard Power Rankings update, which came out today as we're recording. Reflector Mage came in at number 1, followed by Archangel Avacyn, Archangel of Tithes, and then Dromoka's Command and Declaration in Stone as number 5. Thought Not Seer sits just below Always Watching in the ranking, and White-Blue Eldrazi Midrange did make it to the top 4. The other top 4 deck was Todd Anderson's spicy blue-red control with Thing in the Ice and Pyromancer's Goggles.
I think with tuning, that deck will be everywhere. It's already made the price of Pyromancer's Goggles shoot up to $8.
That's hilarious. I need to check and see if I have one. I probably do.
Yeah, he's a really good Magic player. He's not one of the ones I follow more prominently, but he definitely for sure is one to keep watching throughout the season. Him and Jeff Hoagland both. I really enjoyed watching Jeff Hoagland's Green Black Rock deck, too.
So, Brenda, have you really gotten to keep up with what's going on in Standard?
So I've been watching the Star City event. I saw all of day 1 and most of day 2, particularly the semifinal and finals. And just the Reflector Mage is so darn good and frustrating to play against. So I'm been kind of building on the side. Nothing specific yet. White just seems super powerful, as shown by the power rankings and what we see in the top. But I think in the next couple weeks we'll see some changes, and I'm looking forward to see how the meta develops.
Yeah, I'm also interested in that. It may not be that white is necessarily the best color right now, but the easiest to see as being good, and so maybe there will be a reaction to that. Maybe there's a combination that seems even more powerful. I know in testing, as I was working my way through what deck I wanted to play, the biggest problem I kept encountering was white-black control, Esper Dragons, and things like that.
Red is poised for a comeback, too. I mean, Chandra and Goblin Dark Dwellers, with some of the cards we got in the new set with Shadows, seems like it could be super powerful, especially the Sin product. Just so much card advantage in red, which you don't normally get. Somebody just needs to kind of play around and build a bit to see, what's not susceptible to being overrun by humans. And I think that build will end up just breaking out at some point.
I think it's really good against humans. I didn't have a problem with it with my Collected Company deck because I was countering their burn, their Lightning Axe with Dromoka's Command, and I was getting the Megamorph package going. I had the Death Mist Raptors in the graveyard. I was flipping the Den Protector. I ended up winning in 2 without ever casting Collected Company. And I would just, the moment they would play their Goblin Dark Dweller, I would counter the burn and then immediately Declaration in Stone on the Dark Dweller.
To say there's been a lot of cool lists I've been seeing around. I didn't see it at the open. I don't think really anybody's like thought of this list particularly, but the list that I have been seeing was a red black aggro shell, and it plays. It kind of plays. It plays 8 dragons, so it plays like a little bit of a dragon package. Which if you were a red black dragons fan before, you've got it now. But I love the idea of the deck. The whole centerpiece of the deck was a card called Dragon Tempest from Dragons of Tarkir, which says all flying creatures. It's a 2-mana enchantment, 1 in a red. All flying creatures you control have haste, and anytime a dragon enters the battlefield, you can deal damage to creature or player equal to its power. Well, what's crazy about that is I watched a curve where it went turn 1 land, turn 2 Dragon Tempest, turn 3 Olivia Voldaren or Olivia Mobilize for War swing, turn 4 Thunderbreak Regent, trigger Olivia, discard a card, and then it would turn 5. I don't know if anybody remembers this card, but it's a spicy one. It's called Boltwing Marauder. It costs the same as much as Kolaghan. It has the exact same mana cost. It's 3 red and black. It's a dragon, so it does trigger the Tempest as well as any kind of Olivia triggers if you want to give it haste, which if you don't have a Tempest. But it does have a really sweet ability when it or another creature enters the battlefield under your controls. Another target creature gets +2/+0 till end of turn.
How do you reach turn 5 with that deck?
You can play 4 Draconic Roars, Fiery Impulse. It's got
it's just you swing with Olivia, and then you get the Regent out, and then you swing, and by that point, how are they not dead?
See, that's the point. It's super hyperactive aggro, but the part that a lot of people, like the last Black-Red Dragons aggro players played, that they really liked, the best part about it is that most of the deck flies, especially like Olivia. Most of the creature decks are on the ground right now. Oh, and it also plays 4 of that new uncommon, the new Delver, Heir to Falconwreath. It was a really spicy brew I saw, and it tears up, but it's just really fast. I think that's probably the best part is the fact that it just playing creature. It gives removal with your dragons that has a upside if you have a dragon, and then the dragons themselves entering the battlefield are also removal spells. Like, that is crazy to me. I'm sorry.
That's far better to me than having when a flying creature enters the battlefield, you may have it fight another creature, because then you run the risk of losing the flyer. Just straight up, here, have a burn spell in your hand, have fun. You can play it for free.
Yeah, for real. It was a really cool deck I saw, and I really wanted to give it a shot, and I'm thinking about trying it next Friday, just to give it a little curiosity.
Well, what have you been testing since you started to test your Shadows over Innistrad Standard?
In terms of like everybody, we all have our first brews. My first little go at the standard meta was a Humans Collected Company deck. And I really started off on the Blue-White Humans deck that everybody now knows as the crazy Humans deck that plays, the Reflector Mage, Thalia's Lieutenant, topped off its curve at Archangel of Tides. Well, I decided, as good as Archangel of Tides is, I wanted to get more value out of my creatures. Whereas necessarily just trying to play all out aggression, and then if I run out of gas, I lose. So I decided to try a Bant list, which pretty much plays the same creature package, but also added in 3 Tireless Tracker, which, is if anybody watched the Green-White Human list this weekend, you saw how many cards that card draws you. But the best part is every human in the deck right now, every human in the deck is a target for Collected Company as well, and then pretty much the rest of the cards you play are removal spells and always watchings. So the list I composed was 4 Thalia's Lieutenant, 4 Consul's Lieutenant, 4 Knight of the White Orchid, 4 Reflector Mage, 3 Tireless Tracker, 4 Thraben Inspector, and 2 Handwear Militia Captain. And then for the spells, I had 4 Collected Company, 2 Declaration in Stone, 1 Angelic Purge, 2 Soak Wrap, and 3 Always Watching. If you're wondering about the Angelic Purge, it was pretty much just a spicy thing I wanted to throw in, and it turns out the card ended up being really, really good with the Thraben Inspector making clues. And then as well as the Tireless Tracker, because if at 90% of the time when I was in testing, I at least had like 4 or 5 clues always at all times.
Yeah,
so
I've found that as well with Tireless Tracker. You find yourself with more clues than you know what to do with, which the way that websites like Channel Fireball were talking about clues, like with things like Bygone Bishop and Tireless Tracker was, oh, well, there's better things to do with your mana, but they're nice to have. That's not the point. The point is they're there, and when you run out of gas, you're not actually out of gas.
Correct. I really love the whole clue mechanic. It's really cool, honestly. Not hinting to the fact that all the clues, apparently according to a conspiracy theory, have leads to say that Emrakul is on Innistrad, quote unquote.
We will not get into that. We all have our theories. I have my own theory. So you've said that you started off with humans and then you headed towards Bant with Tireless Tracker. Where did you head to from there?
From there, like I said, I watched the Open last weekend, and I really liked Jim Davis's collected company list, and that's the one I've been testing with. But it has been kind of a little draggy since everybody's playing that now. But in terms of the deck that I've just been kind of messing around with for the past couple of days, just to get a feel of the meta, I have been messing around with this red-green list that I have been messing with. It's also a collected company list, but it's more in the aggressive sense that plays like Sylvan Advocates and Sin Prodders, Arlencord. Basically, it's just it tries to stay away from the tribal aspect that everybody's trying to play right now, and it just plays a pure aggro strategy. And it plays like Atarka's Command and Zergo Bellstriker. So it's got that mono red feel, that Atarka red feel that from the old standard, but it has the ability to top out its curve a little higher.
It is important to remember that Atarka's Command is a card.
It is still a card.
Like, Dromoka's Command is good, but Atarka's Command is good too.
Yes, for sure. I actually did have a moment where I blocked Olivia today because they forgot the fact that it has a reach clause on it.
That is true.
And they got really salty, honestly. But anyway.
That's their own fault.
They were like, oh, I know it gives +1/+1 to your creatures and burn me for 3, right? And I was like, well, I'm going to burn you for 3 and give them +1/+1 and reach. The last 2 words of that sentence that no one reads. Cough.
All these flavors, and he chose to be salty.
True. There's no sugar in that aspect.
Yeah. So, I had a similar journey to yours, but it didn't start at the same place. I started off, I really, as I've said on Draw 4, wanted to play a clue deck. So, my first idea, which Steve, the L2 judge that was on, agreed with, was tapping clue tokens with Aether Grid. And you know me, I like to play a good mid-range game, so I took this nice aggro shell with Thopters and then started tapping them with Aether Grid and went grindy with it. And that was fun. I tested that. That wasn't hard to build. I'm still getting cards on Puka-Trade, but it's pretty much built already. It's not that expensive. It's like $80, $90. And then from there, I thought, well, what if I don't want to go with Artifact Synergy and Chief of the Foundry and all of that? So I then updated my Puka-Trade list and I started getting Eldrazi in. Most of that was pretty cheap to get. Even getting a playset of Reality Smasher, well, not a playset, 3 Reality Smasher really wasn't that expensive. Then I thought, well, while I'm waiting for that to come in, I should test one more build I've been thinking about. Bygone Bishop and Tireless Tracker. So I went that direction and I made a Coco Megamorph Clues list, which was just green-white collected company. And my build that I ended up with after testing for about a week was, Fortify Village playset, Canopy Vista playset, 2 Evolving Wilds. Evolving Wilds with Tireless Tracker is really, really good. I actually had 2 Tireless Trackers in play and sacked an Evolving Wilds the other day. That was fun. Yeah, and then 9 forests, 5 plains, so 24 lands. I like to go a little bit mid-range with my package.
Yeah, I think that's the thing to play right now with everybody. Okay, so I'll make this statement. I really, really wanted to play Control this format, and seeing as Dragons was the real good way to play it first, and it just after watching last weekend, Aliantrazi just got totally shut off by Clipwings. Clipwings has been probably the best sideboard card of the entire weekend.
So good, and it's a common. I saw that. That was amazing.
It's instant speed, 1 in a green, sack your Ojutai, get no value, go.
I saw that happen and I cheered.
It's just the fact that 90% of all of the Dragons players, they will jam Ojutai on turn 5 and tap themselves out because of the fact that they have to start getting their damage in early. But what they really don't understand, because like a lot of the real control decks back in the day, they would play their finisher and hold up counter magic to protect it for a turn or to make sure it resolved. Whereas the decks now just try to throw out Ojutai and say go, And then now they can just go 1 in a green and it's dead, and they can't do anything about that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
I think they kind of ran headlong into the weekend, going, Ojutai has hexproof as long as it's untapped, and then all of a sudden they're running right into this freshly printed 1 in a green instant speed common.
Kind of like when everybody played the Constellation decks when Back to Nature was reprinted, and
That was
kind of like that.
a good day.
That was a good day. We took advantage of that so bad when we went to Abilene that day because everybody was playing Green-Black Constellation.
I, like you, was thinking, well, is there a control aspect to this meta? And it wasn't there. Like, there is Ojutai, there is that kind of stuff, but you can outlast it with Collected Company if you have things like Dim Protector. So my creature package ended up being 24 creatures with this particular list, which was a single 10 Nissa, Vastwood Seer, and 3 Deathmist Raptor, and the rest is playsets. Sylvan Advocate, Tireless Tracker, Duskwatch, Recruiter, Dim Protector, and Bygone Bishop. Now, a little bit of this is a little bit controversial, and I did kind of alter the list when I went to Bant with it, but I really did want to have Deathmist Raptor in the graveyard, so play it morphed, don't care if it dies, kill something when it blocks, and then put it in the graveyard, and then bring it back with Dim Protector, and the other day when I was testing, I managed to get 2 of them back, and that was the match that I won against Red without ever having played a Collected Company. Duskwatch Recruiter is so good. Sylvan Advocate's amazing in the current meta. Tireless Tracker was underrated.
I do have a feeling about Control, though. I do feel like Control, it could be a thing, but I feel like they need to rotate away from the Dragons package and focus more on the Planeswalker package, because Brandon Thompson, he's a player in Brownwood, actually, where you're from, Joseph. He's been working on a brew that's pretty much just the same as for Control list, but he wants to play the real Control with like Sorin as his finisher, and just pretty much wants to win the attrition battles with the early aggro decks instead of having his Ojutais die to clip wings. And I feel like that list could actually get somewhere. It just needs the right tuning.
I actually did play against that deck in testing.
Ugh. See, I feel like the real just hard counters, draw lots of cards, like with Epiphany at the Drown Yard and all that other stuff. I feel like that's the kind of control that people need to be playing. I think they jumped into the new meta thinking that Solemgarn Scorn was just going to be able to counter everything, and Clip Wings is just too good, unfortunately.
I think for control, we're going to see a lot more black, because like Languish in this format right now seems really good.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Right, and then like you said, the top end of Sorin. I honestly expected to see more Sorins on coverage than I did. I think he's underplayed right now. He's super good, especially in any kind of control shell.
Yeah, and like I said, I want to see more Sorin. That's what I want to see right now. I want to see a lot more Sorin, because if anybody's been paying attention to the black-white control list, with like Secure the Wastes and Westvale Abbey, but they've been playing that Sorin, and especially even the white-black mid-range decks have been playing Sorin as a 2-of or so. And I played against it in testing as well. And it was just heartbreaking. I was just like, okay, Sorin, I don't think I'm going to be in a lot of trouble against this. And he minused it and killed my big threat. I'm like, okay, that's kind of a problem, but I'll be alright. And the next turn he starts plussing it. And I'm like, well, that plus could be bad in that deck, because he could just hit Secure the Waste. And every turn he's like, okay, I'm going to hit... he hit Dark Petition the first turn, and I took 5, and I was just like, oh man, this is not good. But I really think Sorin has a place in the meta, and that people just need to find it. Because, I mean, I say just to people out there right now who are in the financial aspect of the game, I pick up your sets now, because he is down to $20, I believe, and he will spike up if people figure out how to use him right.
The moment he has a good showing, expect him to go up to like 35.
Yeah, like, what's his name? Sorin... Solemn Visitor from Khans of Tarkir, he started off at like $15, like nobody thought he was good, and then he jumped to 35. Yeah, about like that. Just Soren's magic number's 35 after 2 weeks of until people figure out how good he actually is.
The rest of my list, in this list that was the green-white, I was running 2 Nissa Voice of Zendikar. I liked being able to put the counters on there. Originally, that was in there to go along with the enchantment that lets me investigate when something dies and then put out a soldier whenever I crack a clue. And I thought that was a nice little combo, being able to put counters on 1/1s. But ultimately, it was there because I just liked how it fit. But it was like it was the 59th and 60th card in the deck, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Then I had Because I like my mid-range. I had the Collected Company 4 of, but then 3 Declaration in Stone and 3 Dromoka's Command, and that felt like a sweet spot to have 3 of each of those, especially being able to... the game I keep coming back to was I had a Dim Protector with enough mana to flip it and then play Dromoka's Command. So I had 2 Death Mist Raptor in graveyard. I flipped Dim Protector in response to them attempting to burn it out. I get Dromoka's Command, get the 2 Raptors in play, and then counter the burn spell, and then they concede. So it's just really, really good. And what I like about Dromoka's Command is not just a pump. It's not just enchantment removal. It's not just creature removal. It's also going to preemptively prevent undue losses to red when it rises in response to white humans. It's going to give us a way to beat it.
Yeah, and a lot of people seem to believe that the humans archetype is going to die off once the meta shapes up. And I feel like, okay, so right now there's like the white-green, the blue-white, the mono-white, the Bant, any iteration of those 3 colors, and right now, and I feel like I don't believe the archetype's going to die out. I feel like it's going to narrow down to one of those combinations of colors or single color. And once it finally finds its spot and its comfortable spot in the meta, it's going to stay like that. And then so in other words, I don't think the archetype's going to die. I think versions of the deck are going to die.
I mean, it'll shift. It'll be like when Eldrazi was like the big modern deck, but then the list that you saw a month later were nothing like the list that you saw at the Pro Tour.
Yeah. No, they were not.
Like, those cards are still good. Thalia's Lieutenant is still bonkers. You can play it on turn 2, you can play it on turn 10. It doesn't matter. It's still good. It gets bigger, it makes things bigger. I mean, what more do you want? It'll still be good. As for Always Watching, I'm not so sure that will stick around when people start packing enchantment removal. I played against that deck one time before I knew it was an archetype, and immediately put 3 Enoch Survivalist in my sideboard.
Yeah.
Because that combos nicely with Death Mist Raptor. So... after you said you were moving on to Bant Company in our Draw 4 Facebook group, I immediately started to think, well, should I? And I kept testing, and then I realized Reflector Mage is good. Which we knew already. We went to Grand Prix Houston, and on the way back we don't know what the meta's going to be like, but we have an idea it's going to be creature-based, and Reflector Mage is going to be the best card in the format. What was that, like 2 months ago when we said that?
Oh, yeah. And I can even tell you another story. So... Of those familiar with the tournament, that's a Texas exclusive called the Hunter Burton Memorial Tournament. It was actually... That's
actually the one that Zach Elsick won.
Yes, I actually talked to him while I was there. But one of the big was there was actually a lot of good people there. Man, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head currently, but the guy that won the Open the weekend before was there, and I don't know why he traveled that far, but it's his decision. So. I went there to play in the standard event. It was just basically, it got so many people. Star City actually sponsored it as an IQ, and they were giving out IQ prizes along with the event's normal prize pool. And what was cool about it is it was 9 rounds of standard, and then the top 8 had to draft Modern Masters 2015 for their prize pool. Well, I went there playing Dark Jeskai. I borrowed a friend of mine's Dark Jeskai list because I figured, Dex playing Jace, it couldn't be bad. And when you said Reflector Mage was good, I played Rally rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I immediately dropped after that. And then I was just like, there is so much Rally here. I was really just mind blown. Well, I went up to the judge, or not the judge, the front counterman who has like control of who has all the deck lists or whatever. And I was just like, can you like tell me like a statistic? You don't have to tell me like who's playing what. But could you tell me how many Rally decks? And he goes, oh, we already looked because we noticed how ridiculous it was. And out of the 250 people that entered that tournament, 147 people were playing 4-color Rally that weekend. All of them were playing 4 copies of Reflector Mage. So believe me, I know exactly what you mean when you say Reflector Mage is a good card, because that's literally all I played that weekend. It was a nightmare. And then I proceeded to drop and then played in a draft and pulled Nissa, Kozilek's Return, and Mirror Pool in one draft, and
seems pretty good.
Yeah, I did go on to win that draft. That was pretty fun.
But when I moved my deck on to Bant Company, really like the footnote of what I did here was I took out the Nissa Planeswalker and the Flip Nissa. put in 2 Bounding Crassus and 4 Reflector Mage and shaved off some numbers, but I kept my 6 removal spells and 4 Collected Company, so 26 creatures, 10 spells, 24 lands. So nice mid-rangey build, because that's me. I can't even play Collected Company as anything but mid-range, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I've got a lot of the pieces coming to me in the mail off Puka Trade. I'm almost down to the last points. I'm literally at 1 point right now on Puka Trade, but I have like $10 worth of points still coming to me. I don't know what's going on with that. And a lot of cards being sent to me, and when I'm done with that, I'm done. I am excited though. I will basically, because I'm building my wife a cheap little Prowess deck, Blue-Red Prowess with Madness package, and then I've got my 2 variations of Blue-Red Thopters, and then I have my Collected Company deck. I think it's going to be a fun standard, which I really didn't consider the last standard to be that fun. Like, I played Ramp because it was fun, and the rest of the decks just did not appeal.
Yeah, and like I said, it's all pretty much just, at this moment in time, we know what the meta kind of looks like. It looks like a bunch of humans and a bunch of Reflector Mages. But the Pro Tour is next week, and I feel like we'll get a lot more information about the meta once that comes around.
Any further thoughts, Brenda?
I am going to be sick of Reflector Mage pretty quickly. I have a feeling. So we'll see how the next... So hence the red and black. Yeah, no, we'll see. I'll be attending both Grand Prix New York and Grand Prix Toronto here in the next few weeks. So I'm about to dive headfirst in, and from what I see, things are going to be bouncing, and I'm going to be sad.
I'm not going to be tired of casting it anytime soon. I think the moment I cast it the one time, I'll be like, yeah, like the first time I cast Worldbreaker. Yeah, this is fun. And maybe it's just because I didn't hop on the bandwagon, and I don't really consider it hopping on the bandwagon now. It's more like, I like this list, and Reflector Mage would make it better. I think it's going to be fun to cast, maybe not quite so fun to be up against. So what's it time for now, Brenda?
It is time for this week's Mana Leak article of the week, which is the new MTG PPTQ system has changed the grind, but is it for the better, by Kayur Patel?
Kayur Patel, he was the winner of recent Grand Prix over in Europe.
Awesome. So I chose this article because I am a grinder. I qualified for the RPTQ that happened about a month or so ago. I am also qualified for the one coming up in about a month. The last one was Standard, which was not good for me. The next one is Sealed, which I think will be good for me. I also played under the old PTQ system, and I think this is a conversation that needs to happen. When we first switched over to the system, a lot of people talked about it. There were a lot of articles written, but there hasn't been a lot lately. So I was really happy to see somebody starting the conversation. I don't agree with all of the points he makes, but I think it's a healthy conversation that we as a community need to have so that Wizards kind of starts hearing some feedback and can start making some additional changes.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the key will be finding a better solution. And I don't think we've come up with one yet. I agree completely that the old PTQ system was flawed and failed. I went to one in Toronto right before the system switched over, and there were over 400 players, like he mentions in his article, and it was just miserable. And my problem now with the RPTQ system is that so few people actually qualify. For example, in my personal case, I have yet to have a friend that I normally travel with qualify. So I've had to travel by myself. And, at minimum, it's a 3 to 5 hour drive if I go to the nearest one. And there are other ones that many people have to fly to, which makes it cost prohibitive. And I appreciate the top 4 making it rather than just the top 1. But it's an extra weekend I have to schedule. It's an extra thing I have to spike to do well.
Sounds like a very good conversation. I'm glad to have your insight on that, Brenda, since you've been part of that circuit. I've never really, even with the system as it was before, had the time or resources to attend any of them, although I would have loved to, and now it just seems like it's not quite... It almost doesn't seem worth getting into if you haven't been in it. I've got to travel all the way across Texas to here to qualify to drive another direction across Texas to here so I can qualify for this other thing. It just doesn't seem that appealing.
Exactly. I mean, the other issue is it's not only, the time investment, it's also the way that it's now. If you qualify by winning a PPTQ, you get locked out of all the others for the rest of the season. So as an example, for both seasons that I've qualified for, I qualified within the first 2 weeks. So I haven't played in a PPTQ The season ends, I believe it's next weekend, is when April 23rd is when the new season starts. So I haven't been able to play as much competitive Magic as I would like because so many of the competitive tournaments around here are PPTQs. And since I qualified, I just sit on the sidelines and play on Moto all weekend. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay, TJ, bring us into the community topic. What's going on?
Alright, so this week's community topic is going to be about our stories from the Shadows of Innistrad pre-release. Whoop whoop. Alright, well, I guess since, Joseph wants me to go first. So I'm just kidding. I'm going to go first. So, at the pre-release, over the course of this Friday midnight release, I decided to draft Grixis, and it was really hard on me to play 3 colors. I really did not enjoy playing 3 colors. But, I did draft a Jace, and the Jace actually turned to be quite fruitful in the entire deck. However, I did get matched up against just so many hyperactive red decks, and I played a guy that got 2 of the rare Devil's Playground, and then and he got 3 of the Dance with the Devils uncommon. So he had so many of those 1/1 devils that ping you.
So many little devils.
Yeah, all those little devils. But probably the craziest pre-release story I have is the Sunday pre-release event that I went to. It was just another singles event. I thought I had a really crazy draft pool because I drafted a foil Arlencord and a regular Arlencord in the same thing. I was like, holy crap, this is going to be good. And I got tons of red-green support. Like, the deck was just bonkers. Well, in the finals, I played a guy that got 4 mythics in his box, and his promo was an Avacyn, and then his first pack apparently had Avacyn, and then he had a Jace, and then he had a Nahiri. So he played a 4-color Walker's deck, and needless to say, like, it was really close, honestly. But just Avacyn put it over the top, and I just couldn't deal with the 4/4 flying every turn that didn't have to tap. Like,
yeah, that's actually quite a problem to deal with flyers, especially one that doesn't tap.
Yeah, and just Avacyn itself just made me really cautious about how to attack, because I was like, well, I make one bad attack and the board wipes it, and I have nothing to stop Avacyn. Then she flips and wipes out the board and probably just kills me, which in turn did happen. She flipped and then killed me. But overall, the pre-release was really fun. I made quite a bit of money. Like, I got my promos, I think, consisted of a season's pass that I sold for like $25. And then I got the prized Amalgam promo, and then a Westvale Abbey promo. So overall the weekend was pretty fruitful for me. Like, I played in 2 events and ended up walking off with 3 promos. I traded for one of the prized Amalgam promo because I thought I was going to try blue black zombies at one point, and that's another thing. I never saw any blue black zombie archetypes at all these last weekends.
It's really hard to put together.
Yeah, but overall, I did have a great time at the pre-release.
All right. I'll tell my stories next. At the pre-release, I took Jared's advice from our last episode, and I played black-green big numbers, but I didn't really have any decent removal cards. Now, I didn't force black-green. I looked at my pool, and I didn't really have anything good except for black-green. It was just there was a scarcity of removal. So I ended up 3-2, with my 2 losses being because I couldn't find my removal even while I was digging with magnifying glass through clue tokens. Just could not find removal to answer flyers. I did get to flip Neglected Heirloom once or twice, and that was fun. I had 3 different flip creatures. My only real bomb, though, was from under the floorboard, so I had to rely on big common and uncommon creatures to close games. There was no real, like, usable rares other than from under the floorboards. Now, I want to mention that I did significantly better this past weekend during the official release of Shadows of Innistrad, as I said on 10 Minute Magic, which was, again, big green, big bottoms. But this time the removal was there. I was past 3 Pack Guardians and multiples of several other big bottom creatures. It was strong enough to take down a 16-person 2-pod draft, so despite the fact that I didn't actually draft any rares at all, I did pull Arlen Cold and Nahiri in my prize support, so it was overall a pretty good weekend. What about you, Brenda?
Well, I was sick for most of pre-release.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I still played. I will say a good portion of it is a blur, based on cough medicine and lack of sleep. I played in, I think it was 6 events by the end of pre-release weekend. and like I said, all a blur. But I do know I managed to do pretty well in most of them. I ended up with something almost a box by the end of it in prize packs, so it was pretty well. You mentioned magnifying glass. That by far was the MVP for me. That card did so much work in sealed. The card that I have yet to beat in limited is Westvale Abbey. I went 2-1 and 2-1 in the midnight and then 10 a.m. event we did at the pre-release. And both my one losses were to Game 3 Westvale Abbey's literal zero answers in my entire pool to that card. Oops. So I have yet to open one, so I'm a little salty about that. I also didn't get to open the card I really wanted, Avacyn, so that was a little disappointing. But like you, I had better luck this last weekend. I actually got to live the dream, and in a really super grindy matchup, I had Jace and Startled Awake, so I was able to swing with it, but return it to my hand, cast it, and then have Jace bounce the creature back to my hand again. It was just this massive one turn milieu for 26 pass. Any cards left? Okay, I win. So it was so much fun, and my opponent didn't see the line. He thought he had me dead on the swing back, and I was like, wait a minute, I have way too much mana. I can do all of the things.
Do all the things, Brenda.
It was fun. And so I think that was the most rewarding way I won a match since Shadows has come out. I have yet to actually do a full, just straight 8-person draft. I've done some casual drafts with friends, like 4-person, 6-person, but I haven't done an actual 8-person draft yet. So I'm really looking forward to that limited aspect of it.
I actually did get to draft one more time, which was on Saturday. That one, the funny thing was, except for the one guy who dropped, and then a guy who went 1-2, the rest of us were all 2-1. So, I think it was a 6-person draft, so there were 4 of us that were 2-1. That one, I don't remember exactly what I drafted, I just know it was just kind of meh. So it was like, put some cards together that I know I can grind out an advantage, but I'm pretty sure I went with 3-color, which I didn't want to. It went okay. So, now we move on to the community question. TJ, since this is your part of the podcast, what is the community question?
Well, the community question for this week is, what was the most interesting game you played in or heard about at the Shadows over Innistrad pre-release event that you attended? And I played 4 Mythics. I've got nothing else to say on that.
I have 1 playable rare, so there's not much to say there except, big bottoms were good and won me out games just because of board presence. The craziest thing I heard about was over at the Abilene store. There was a guy who got, like you did, several mythics, and then in his prize support got a foil Arlen Cord, which was ridiculous, so he walked away with probably $200 worth of prize support and pulls just for showing up. Like, here, have $200, thanks for showing up, everyone else go away.
Yeah, I got a lot of value out of my cards, too. Like I said, I pulled a Arlen Cord, a foil Arlen Cord, a Jace, and then one of my promos was a Seasons Past, the mythic that's the 6-drop that lets you return any number of cards from your graveyard that have different mana costs.
That was actually the card that Magic Mike's got to preview.
What was crazy about it was that the regular was $2 and the foil, for some reason, was $28. So I sold it for
a huge EDH card.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it, but apparently a lot of the decks that are playing like Cascade, I think is what my friend said. That he was looking for it like crazy, but he said it's going to go great in his Maelstrom Wanderer deck. Yeah,
that makes sense. I also think that it's crazy how many people won with Triska Decaphobia over that weekend.
Oh my gosh. We had
many
2 people win with that card this weekend, and they were like, I remember there's this one guy, he comes and he plays Magic competitively too, but he loves playing just to have fun and be joke around. And he won a game with Triska Decaphobia round 2 out of 4. I believe we had 4 rounds that day, and he's just like, I'm dropping, I have succeeded in my mission, I'm going home. He just left. I was like, alright, you win.
That's fair.
And he messaged me, and I messaged him earlier. I was like, why did you leave? He's like, I won the real game today.
Well, I just lost the game.
And I was like, man, if you're feeling this good about winning with that card, I don't want to know about losing to it.
Brenda, I want to take a stab and say that your craziest story was winning by milling out your opponent using the Jace Bounce combo.
That was definitely my craziest game, and so much fun. I did, however, see there was a a guy in our at our pre-release that did open the lore perfect pool of double Soren and Avacyn. I don't know how he did, but it just seemed really flavorful to have both of those. And of course, one of the Sorens was foil, just because why not? So I was a little jealous, but it seemed like storyline perfect.
I want to know something, though. When Avacyn flipped, because they were working together, did they then cast Anguished Unmaking?
Probably not. One of my good friends, who I mentioned before is an Avacyn lover, promised he would never play that card until he opened it in the sealed pool and then promptly played it, which we still have not let him forget. That card, so good.
Oh, yeah, very good. I got that as a promo at the pre-release, but it wasn't playable. My white was horrible, so I ended up just kind of, okay, I'll send it off on Puka Trade, and then after I sent it off on Puka Trade for 12, it spiked up to 18, so I was like, I mean, it's only $6, not a huge deal. Alright, that is everything for this week's episode, so thank you guys for joining me. You want to say your farewells now?
Like I said, my name's TJ Love. I'm always available for questions. I have answered actually some fan-related questions in the past from previous episodes. Feel free to find me on Facebook, or you can email me at tj.love2@gmail.com, and I'm free to answer any questions that you may have. And I hope I can give some good input, and I hope everyone figures out their place in the standard meta if you're a standard player, and if not, well, I hope this new set does well for you, and I hope that you enjoyed the new set as well as we are.
I'm Brenda. Thanks for joining us. Have fun with all the limited you can play. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at BrendaIsBored.
And you can find me on Twitter, Joseph_Dunlap. I hope everyone is going to get some value out of these new cards in whatever format you intend to play. Get your foils for Commander, get your promo cards, get whatever you want, get your play sets of cards that you think will spike, because things are going to get crazy real soon.
Sorens.
Yeah, Sorens. This has been Draw 4 Podcast. Until next time, we wish you good fortune, and may you draw well. Magic missile.
Nerd.
It's a darkness. Do we have any Mountain Dew?
No, Mom, it's not.
The fact that you guys know that kind of frightens me just a little bit.